Congressman Diane Black is joining us. She introduced a bill yesterday that would mandate notification of Obamacare security breaches. What is this all about? Congressman Diane Black, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Ralph. Great to be with you. I love the lead and music. That was a great song. I wish you'd let us listen to the rest of it.
I know, but we wouldn't have nearly as much time to talk with you then.
What this is about, Ralph, is very simply the federal government requires the private sector, if there is a breach in the private information they have on a citizen, they must follow certain procedures like notifying the individual and notifying them that if any of their information is stolen, used for other purposes. You have to put out information to the public that this happened, and yet there is none of that is required by the federal government. They are not living by and abiding by the same laws that they require the private sector to do, and I just believe we've already seen security breaches. We've already seen hackers being able to get into this information. The federal government should be held to the same standards they're requiring of the private sector.
And it's not just the private sector. Other public sectors do this too. I get a letter every once in a while from South Carolina reminding me that years ago they had a data breach and my Social Security may have been vulnerable, and they'll offer me this service to continue to check if I want to. And Metro Nashville had the same kind of problem. So everybody else is pretty much stepping up the plate here to offer this. And now, as President Obama did say, that if anybody's got good ideas on how to improve this law, bring them forth. I'm more than willing to talk about this. Is this one of those good ideas that he will warm up to?
I'm really sorry to laugh out loud about that, but we know that we have brought him lots of good ideas that he won't even consider. As a matter of fact, he'll cut us off at the pass by saying if it did pass by both the House and the Senate, he would veto it. So I don't have any real thoughts that he's going to embrace this, but it's always worth a try, and that's why we put this out here, is because we have said for months and months, more than 6 months now, probably close to 8 or 10 months, that we could see all of this coming with the data breaches, and it now is coming true. And so we believe that this is just one thing that we should put in place to ensure people, if you are giving them your information, that you have protection.
If we were to go back to the first of the year, and I'll probably be doing this sometime soon as I put together some kind of a year-end program, and just review all of the warnings that came from conservatives, maybe even back to before the law passage, review all of the warnings. I think even as many different things as you and I and others warn people about, that this law is even worse than we imagined it might be in its application to the people of the United States.
No doubt about that. And Ralph, I can go back to, my memory tells me it was about in April when I was reading reports from the Congressional Accountability Office, who oversee these kinds of programs. They were saying back then that they were not ready, the Obama administration was not ready to put this out there, that there were not protections, and they had not done all the testing and putting in place all of the security measures that they needed to keep people's personal information secure. So we knew this back in April.
And that's just the website. That's just the problems that they're associating with the website and not building the cash register when they opened the store and things like that. I'm talking about the law itself and all of the ways it's affecting various people in terms of the insurance that they no longer have, or the insurance that they have now that replaces their old insurance with worse insurance that costs more. You're going to find for every one person that benefits from this, I'll bet you find somewhere around 7 or 8 people that experience a significant negative consequence as a direct result of this law.
No doubt about that. And we have been out there just ringing that bell for even before I got to Congress. But as it got closer and closer to implementation, I've continued to say, just as TennCare was here in the state of Tennessee, what got me into the public sector to begin with, that people would not realize the devastation in their lives that were going to occur as a result of these measures until it actually hit them personally. And that's what we're seeing now. If this had really been implemented a year ago and we'd have been able to see all this a year ago, there's no way this president would have won a re-election. But people just did not believe that these things were all going to happen. It wasn't until they actually started to happen that they went, oh, my goodness, everything they've been saying is coming true.
Indeed. You were among the majority, including the majority of Republicans in the House, that voted for the Ryan Murray budget deal, the first budget that Congress will have passed since President Obama was elected. Were you? Did you vote confidently for that bill, or were you a little sheepish about it?
No, I really felt like this was the way to go, and for several reasons. One of the most especially is that we've got to get back to regular order in Congress where we actually pass a budget. We have been living on Nancy Pelosi's 2009 budget, which means not just the numbers, but it's the appropriations that are so important, because it's through the appropriation process that you actually get to put those amounts of dollars into the areas that you want them. Otherwise, the administration has that control. And that's been a real frustration for me since I got to Congress, is that what we should be doing in Congress is having the power of the purse. And when you do continuing resolutions, you don't get a chance to appropriate those dollars. And so you don't have that power. And this gets us back to regular order. Is it everything I wanted? Absolutely not. Would I've loved to have done more on entitlement reform, which really addresses long-term deficit spending and therefore our debt? Absolutely. But there were some good things that came out of this. We went into saying no new taxes. We wanted deficit reduction. And we got more deficit reduction in this than we did in even the sequester. We didn't want the stimulus program that the president has been pushing to be passed. We didn't want unemployment to be extended, which is huge dollars that are taken out of the budget. And so those were guiding principles that we were able to realize, that not that we got everything we wanted or nearly what we wanted in entitlement reform, but it is a step, and as Dr. Emmeldorf says, every step that you make in cutting the deficit spending. And this is long term. And that's really where I sort of talk about it like a funnel. You know how you have a funnel where you have a little tiny piece at the bottom, but then as the funnel broadens, that's if you can think about spending and long-term spending, such as federal government employees, pension reform. It's a small amount now, but if you were to broaden that out like a funnel over not just the next 10 years, but 20 years, the savings are just astronomical. So
Now,
that's what's important.
the critics say that long-term spending is a promise and it might not come to fruition, whereas the short-term spending increase is right here. That's going to happen. Address that, but also the main objection that I'm getting, and it's a swamp of, a flood of objection, is to the military pension cuts. Address that, if you will.
Sure. And what we do with that, and understand that if I could have had my way again, the military is not where I would have gone. But in order to be able to do what we did with the federal benefits program, we needed to also give a little bit on the military side. That's where the Democrats like to push us. But this was even a suggestion that came from those in the military, those leaders in the military. They said, we are more concerned about readiness and the fact that we are at places where we were ready back in World War II. I mean, that's how much of a decrease in our readiness is out there. So this was a suggestion that they had given us a couple of years ago. And what it does is for those who have served for 20 years and they are on retirement, if you go in at the age of 20 and you retire at the age of 40, there's a lot of working years between then and 62. And so it simply addresses that period of time where you're still productive and making money. You then catch up. Once you hit 62, you get a catch-up on that. And that really helps to save a lot of money in the interim, but it doesn't hurt people when they need it the most. And that is when they're truly retired and they're not in their working years.
Just one follow-up, if I may, because
Sure.
this is what I'm hearing from so much of my audience this morning. They say two things. One, you're taking it from the most deserved, that being military retirees, and two, that it breaks a contract, like an employment contract that you had when they agreed to serve in the military for life, a lifer. They knew what the pension would be and what the basis was, and this breaks that contract. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that, again, this is not what I would have wanted to do. I would have wanted to go into some other areas that we had on the table and we thought were better options. But we also recognize that this is really helping people where we need to help them, and that's when they're truly retired.
Right.
And for those 20 years between the time they are retired and still in the workforce, that this is, and it does touch them up. I think that's what I can what I can say to them is this does help them when they most need the money,
Would you
when they're truly retired.
would you support the Sessions amendment if he could get it through the Senate, and would the House support it, do you think, to restore the military pension benefits and simultaneously close a loophole that he says has allowed illegal immigrants to qualify for child tax credits? They don't actually qualify it, but they're getting it, and possibly up to $4 billion a year that they're not supposed to be getting. If that amendment would pass, would you accept that as a substitute? And would the House, do you think?
Hey, listen, Ralph, I would not only accept it, I am actually signed onto a bill that does that. I've been on a bill that's been pushing that for almost 3 years now. So
Yeah.
I would more than welcome it. I would welcome the president to sign it. And I absolutely would like to use that money that we get on that for a pay for. I would do that in a flat second. But like I say, I'd vote for that today because we've known about that for several years.
Any chance you think that this is going to be argued in the Senate today? I don't know that they're going to accept any amendments before they vote on the bill or not. But if they did and they passed it, would the House come back into session? Do you think pass that rather quickly or not?
Oh, I think that we would certainly welcome that amendment. And I don't guess anymore at all what happens in the Senate. I've been wrong so many times, I don't even guess anymore.
Yeah, I
I've looked like a fool where I say, oh, no, this will happen or that won't happen. And now I'm saying, the Senate is an animal of its own, and I'm going to see what they're going to do. But I'd be more than delighted to see that piece closed in because it's a big loophole and a lot of money.
I have to let you go now, but one of these soon days, can we get back together and discuss the Republican alternative to Obamacare that you're also signed on to in the House?
Oh, would love to
Right,
show
very
people
good.
that we really do have an option out there.
Congressman
Ralph.
Diane Black, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take
Merry
care.
Christmas to you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.